far across the sea. Hey, 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 for a little while we'll stay and be home in time for tea. Set sail, in sunshine or in gale, the fun we'll have will be really grand. Hurrah, hurrah, follow the guiding star, and come with us to Adventure Island. Dum-dee-dum, everyone can come, all of you and a big brass band. Bing bum, sound the sailing gong, for now we're leaving for Adventure Island.
And when the music ended, there we'd be outside Mr. House, right in the middle of the magic forest.
You were captivated by the unlayering of the story.
And Sue Donovan would walk up and Mr. House would say, "Hello, Sue." And they'd chat and she'd collect the papers and the letters and then she would go inside and we'd follow.
Drawn deeper into the secret heart of the fantasy.
And finally she would open the magic book.
She unlocks the private world of the text.
And inside the magic book would be the story waiting there from yesterday, frozen in time, and we'd look into it.
You activate it again with your attention, breathing life
and
into the
characters would start to come to life. The page would disappear and turn into a screen. And then the story would begin again.
Television's glance becomes, for a short time, cinema's gaze.
We were always very conscious that the lights would go down and the footlights would come up and the curtain would go up. And when the curtain went up, there we would be. We'd have all our characters there, all with the glitter and all with the colourful costumes and all with the happiness that we were presenting a new world every night for the children.
What do you say, Caesar?
When is a train like water?
I don't know. What is a train like water?
When it is June.
Oh.
And how important was the music to the whole show?
I think it was very important. It gave us virtually sometimes a hidden agenda on a scene. Sometimes we would again take away something that could have been quite frightening by doing a counterpoint in the type of music we played. Sometimes we used the music in a very slapstick fashion. If people were going to get hit with something, well, the percussion would underline that, and it would always be music that they could hum with.
Well, what's the suitcase for, Clown?
I'm going for a holiday.
Who with?
With you.
No, you're not, because I'm not going on a holiday.
Aren't you? But I thought you were. I must get muddled up. Hello, Betty Bruin. Are you going for a holiday then?
Me?
Yeah.
Going for a holiday?
Yeah.
Oh, no, Clown.
Then where are you going then?
I'm just going home.
Are you?
Yes, I'm not going for a holiday.
Oh, golly, I know. Hello, Lisa. Hello, Lisa. You going for a holiday then, Lisa?
No, Clown, I'm not going for a holiday.
Aren't you, Jill?
Oh, where are you going?
Nowhere.
Oh, why have you got a suitcase, Clown?
I don't know. I forget.
Poor Clown.
For little ones, we always tried to get a lot of music in the show that little ones could do, what I suppose I call it kindergarten percussion. They could be hitting something in time or shaking a bottle of beans along with us, and sometimes we'd show.
Yeah, I wonder if there's an empty house somewhere where we can find a place for Black-Hearted Barnacle and myself to have a holiday. I'll try over here. Talking bears are in there. I'll try down here. That silly little girl's at home. I'll try over there. That flower lady is home. I wonder if that silly clown is home.
I'm sure they said they were going for a holiday. I'm just sure they said they were going for a holiday.
Hello, Clown.
Oh, hello. Are you going for a holiday?
How did you know that?
I don't know, or just you.
You're not as silly as I thought you were.
With the style of shooting that she used for the show, how did that differ from working in adult TV?
Children of that age, I discovered, have a very short span of attention, and so all the scenes were quite short. And we also used the close-up because young children need to see things very clearly. We very seldom used a rapid shooting technique because, again, that could confuse the children quite easily. So that the tempo was a nice, easy tempo. We used dissolves a lot in the songs when we had romantic songs, and every
you would be
episode
using
Adventure Island.
3 to 4 cameras. There was a huge crane that you don't see much anymore. They're all got wraps on them. Nobody knows how to use them. And the sets had to be designed to get this thing through them, but it could rise right up above it, and it could float. Wonderful sort of movements of sort of swoops and a bit sort of like the eye of the bird sort of thing, and that was great fun to play with. And
well, now I've frightened them all away. I can start digging up that lovely buried treasure.
Adventure Island was very rococo, very baroque, very flamboyant. The designer still works for the ABC, I believe, here in Melbourne, Paul Cleveland. But the look, it was a busy look. It was busy. It was very cluttered. There were lots of interesting things for the boys and girls to look at, and we used to encourage the boys and girls to send in drawings, their own drawings of the scenery, and it's amazing the things that they picked out. And the audience, the bulk of the audience were aged between, I suppose, 4 and 8 or 4 and 9, and they had very, very astute eyesight, and they'd send us drawings of the diddly-dum-diddly street or one of the little houses we had, and they'd really pick out all the little details that Paul and his team had put into it.
Lisa talks to the other diddly-dum-diddlies. She catches your eye.
We were taught back in those days that you included the camera like a third person. In the style of television, that particular children's television that we were doing, it was very much to include the kids.
I don't know what Shakespeare called the character that would sort of step out and speak directly to the audience. Sometimes we'd use it to explain a situation to the younger children. We would realise in rehearsal, for example, that a scene that we'd written, that we'd dramatised, was a little bit complex for a youngster to understand, and so we'd instantly write a little bit of narrative dialogue for one of the characters just to step forward or turn to camera and explain what had happened or what was about to happen.
I mean, Clown would have great conversations with them on camera. You know, he'd really look down that lens and talk to those kids. And I think that's why they related to a lot of us, because they felt that we were coming into the living room via that way.
I'd like to welcome you tonight, show you a show light and bright, give you seats that are the best. Ice creams at interval, I'll treat you good, I'll treat you swell. Be my guest, be my guest, be my guest.
I remember our family always watched certain shows. BP Picklebox, Homicide, Bandstand, My Name's Magooly, What's Yours? These were the Australian shows, and everyone watched them. You know, people might have differed when it came to favourite American and British programs, but everybody watched Homicide and Picklebox. Just like later on, you could divide the kids at school up into those whose parents let them watch Number 96 and those who didn't.
I'd like you to enjoy the show. Maybe our friendship then will grow, and you won't think that I'm a pest. I want you all to understand, your very wish will be my command. Be my guest, be my guest, be my guest.
And my mother was really glad when Adventure Island came along, because she hated us watching American cartoons. It was the first time that an Australian show could really compete with them.
Adventure Island. Our story this week, Miss Flicker's Picture Show. And Chapter 2, At the Pictures. Well, somehow I think this week is going to be another topsy-turvy week. We've got so many of in Diddly Dum Diddly. Yesterday, you remember, we met a funny...
I remember the gates at the beginning of the magic forest, was it? Yeah. And I used to really get into the music and watching the forest light up. The puppets, as far as the two puppets were concerned, one of them was a toucan or something, or resembles
a clear
something like a toucan.
view I've got is the beginning, with all the gates opening and the curtains parting, and it just seemed like really going into some place of sanctuary where all these
yeah, it's really incredible that you put that show, because every time I speak to people about it, they say, "Oh, what show?" And it's getting to the stage where I thought that was all just a dream. I thought, that show must have just been a dream, because no one remembers it.
Unified by being in this one place. I can't remember the baddies in a frightening way at all, just as... because the goodies always seemed to come through every possible threat. I remember feeling really...
And the lady, and the two parrots, and she'd read letters first off before the show started. And vaguely, I think there were two parrots, and they'd tell silly jokes, and one of them would fall off the perch or something.
In a sentimental way. But just a sense of wonder when the curtains would start to part would be there every single day. When the gate would open and in we'd go.
I remember one story where he was trying to put evil spells on everyone and brainwash them. And I remember the two bears who they weren't really cuddly for me, they were just sort of bears, and staring at the wall, sort of going, oh, because they thought if they had blank brains.
So every week there was a self-contained story that would begin on a Monday and would finish on a Friday, and we always said, to reassure children, that everything would always turn out all right on a Friday, and everything always did turn out on a Friday. But we had to be wary, because once, I remember, Nancy Cato, when we were doing Magic Circle, Nancy Cato took ill and had to disappear after we taped 2 episodes. Well, we couldn't go back to tape the original 2 episodes, so we got Liz Harris came in to host the rest of the shows. And the only thing we could think of, what we've got to explain to the children why Nancy isn't here. So we said, oh, she got locked out of the Magic Forest. I mean, this is really, we're thinking on the run here. We had, I don't know how many, telegrams, phone calls, people, hysterical children wondering whether Nancy would ever get back into the Magic Forest. I mean, we didn't realise, I think that was the first time we actually realised the power of the program.
Diddly-dum diddlies.
The children with Down syndrome, I was their hero, which was wonderful. So I'd invite them into my little Carrera van, as I called it. Oh, come on into the Carrera van. And we would have a cup of tea, you see, or we'd have whatever. We'd all have a great talk. So we had children would and they'd make a beeline for their favourite character. So it meant while children were there that we would have to stay in character. The bears would keep their heads on or whatever. And it would be a case of having... everyone putting cigarettes out, you see. Well, of course, some people were fairly heavy cigarette smokers. And I remember Liz Harris one day putting a cigarette in a teapot. But there was enough air in the teapot for the cigarette to keep burning. So there was smoke billowing out of the teapot. Well, you know, and someone said, oh, your teapot's boiling, Lisa. You know, I mean, that sort of stuff went on all the time. We were, because we were, you know, we're grown-ups.
Heroes, heroines, baddies, goodies, love, money. Big people, little people.
Do you know what I'm going to do tomorrow?
What? Surprise me.
I'm going... Oh, I wouldn't surprise you.
No, you certainly wouldn't.
You know all the answers, you really do. I'm going to take the girls and boys...
Yeah?
Right into Adventure Island.
Yeah?
Would you like to come with me?
No.
I'm going to meet the folk of Adventure Island and... Oh, you are incorrigible.
No, I'm not. I'm a galah.
You are an incorrigible galah.
Say that again.
An incorrigible galah.
Say it quickly.
Incorrigible galah, incorrigible galah, incorrigible galah.
They have a lot of women doing children's television because there is something that the kids can relate to with a woman. Masculine. It's more like a mother figure or a sister figure or a... Yeah,
culture,
you know, a sister figure, some
the
sort of big
world,
sister that they've always wanted
money,
that they can relate to and have as their little hero.
We got a group of people together, both in Magic Circle and Adventure Island, who had, now I don't know how this happened, but we had people, all of them, who had the ability to become children on television. Not that they acted down to children, but they just understood fantasy. They understood what their characters were. I was able to find, as a writer, a facet of their character that was childlike and incorporate that into the script, and they were able to play it.
And now I go direct south. Funny. This map is leading me straight towards the diddly-dum-diddly Bijou Picture Theatre. Carry on, Sir Cedric.
Now, you sit there, and Clown... No, well, Percy, you come over here, and then
One of the episodes that I loved on Adventure Island was, I think it was called Miss Flickers, and was Tony Lamond, and she played Miss Flickers, who ran the local cinema in Adventure Island. But I think we only ever went to the pictures once, and it was for this week's episode. I can't remember what the outcome of the entire episode was, but I remember so clearly the set that we had for the pictures, and there were the deck chairs all set up, and we'd come to go to the pictures, and we just couldn't find our right seats. We didn't know where we really wanted to sit, and Percy Panda, who was huge, would manage to sit in front of us just as we'd get ourselves comfortable, and he'd sit in front of us, and nobody could see through Percy Panda, so either Percy had to shift or we had to shift again. And nobody ever got to see the pictures because we just kept moving around and around the theatre. It was great fun.
Listen to me, listen. Clown, Flickers is speaking. You better hurry up and get yourself settled because the picture's about to start. All right, fine. All right?
All fine.
Oh, Percy!
I'm going to sit by myself.
That's all right, Clown.
There was just this lovely sense of total fantasy. And I think one of the reasons that the show was stopped was that they began to bring in this thing that fantasy wasn't right for kids, and that Adventure Island was made up of this silly fantasy world, and that kids needn't watch it, and which was just ridiculous. And when I look at the garbage that is put over now as children's shows, it's just awful what kids are being brought up with, and no wonder they grow up so angry.
Growing up's a very, very tough experience. The young child has got to come to terms with all sorts of difficult things, with very strong emotions that they feel. They've got to learn to harness those, things like anger, jealousy, greed, and the way to do it is through fantasy. You can see those things happening through characters on the screen, and you can see the ways they deal with them, and you can identify your feelings with their feelings. I think it's only in recent years that we've realised the importance of kids' actual play in their development. They negotiate with others, they develop stories, they develop structures, they work things out in their own minds, they manipulate things, and those things are very, very, very important to their development. And that's why the mass media products are so popular throughout society in general. I do not understand why the education system has not made a lot better use of television over the years, because we go to it willingly, kids consume it voraciously, and yet the education system almost sets itself up in competition with the medium rather than in collaboration with the medium.
Parents have said to me, we sat and watched the show as a family. Now, an adjunct to that is that a lot of kids who were considered to be way out of the age group, I mean, we felt that our cut-off point was probably 7 or 8, but we had an audience that actually embraced 12 and 13 and 14-year-olds, because some young people really do love fantasy and make-believe, and they're old enough too to understand the double entendre that existed in the show.
And it wasn't you who put mice in the pig. No.
Sticky glue on the ticket.
No.
Or dressed up as a spook?
No.
Or made us cry with onions.
No. What did you say, Lisa?
I said it wasn't you who made us cry with all those onions.
No, it wasn't. But I think I know who it was.
Well, who?
Sir Cedric Sneak.
Sir Cedric Sneak?
Yes, Sir Cedric Sneak.
I had a satirical edge to it, which adults loved. And that's what I think that a good children's program should be. A good children's program should be something that adults want to sit down and watch. You know, if adults don't want to watch it, then you can bet your life kids don't want to watch it either.
I can't see any boys and girls. Take a little look at this. Here we are. Look. Have a look. All
right, then. Ah, yes, there they are.
Well, listen, you little sausages sitting there goggle-eyed. Don't you tell those diddly-dum diddlies that I'm up to no good and who I am, or else there'll be trouble. Big trouble. Understand?
You see, in fairy stories, the Wicked Witch always gets burned in the oven. They're dispatched. But in our world, in the real world, the baddies don't. They often prosper and succeed, and they're around for a long time. So what I tried to do through the program was get children to understand that they would be there. They would never go away, you know, that they would be there for a long time. And to learn to live with them and to be smarter than they were.
Hey, what did they say? What did they say?
They just laughed at me. Laughing.
Oh, don't bother about that, Squire. Now, look, off you go down to diddly-dum diddly. And you better get this dirty...
I hope he doesn't come back again. Oh, dear. We've only seconds left, you know. And how those seconds fly. Seems we've just had time to say hello and...
How do seconds fly?
Seems we've just had time to say hello.
Now it is goodbye.
Do all you can, that's right. And we'll be back again.
And how do seconds fly?
Seems you just had time to say hello.
Now it is goodbye.
So till we meet again.
Be good.
Do all you can, that's right.
We'll be back to see you all.
Same time tomorrow night. And you're terrific too, Sam.
What do you think of children's TV these days?
Well, I don't, naturally I don't watch very much, but I'm not very impressed. I think that it could be much better. I think the drama work that I mentioned from Australian Children's Television Foundation, I think they're fine. I think maybe they're a bit elaborate, but they're not on often enough. They only make their short series, and then the stations put them on air at a very obscure time, so that there is no regular time frame for children to watch what is quality programming. And the stations themselves, none of them are producing anything of any quality. I mean, say Humphrey Bear still grinds on. Humphrey, he...
You know, in America now, they fortunately have a cable television, or several cable television stations like Nickelodeon and the Disney Channel, that really have taken children's television away from the province of the networks and are doing some wonderful stuff. And you've had people like Shelley Duvall with her fairy tale theatre. But in Australia, I don't think children's television they create phony heads of children's departments to make it look good with the tribunal. And the only thing that'll get on air will be reruns of the Addams Family or old cartoons. They won't go out and actually create a children's program.
Could you say that today fantasy within the mass media for children is seen as being more important than, say, it was 20 years ago?
No, because there's very little of it there. I mean, it's not seen as important enough to provide it. So children have to live with adult fantasies. They don't get given fantasies of their own. I mean, the fantasies they've got to live with are the fantasies of Neighbours and East Street and Country Practice and the music clips. But they're not childlike fantasies. And we are missing out there. And kids are really being told indirectly, all right, before you go to school, we'll give you Fat Cat or Humphrey or Play School, will give you some fantasy there. But after that, your life has got absolutely no validity that we recognise at all. You better grow up pretty fast and become an adult, because you're not very important at this stage. They couldn't articulate that. But when you don't see yourself on the television screen at all, then that can only mean to you that you don't matter.
Gee, I don't want a treasure. If I had a treasure, I'd be worried about it all the time. I'd be frightened that crooks would get it, or I'd lose it, or something would happen to it. I don't want a treasure.
You're not as silly as you look, are you, clown?
No, tell me, how'd you find out about
It would be nice to think that perhaps we could have an onward children's television philosophy in Australia that was put into practice, and the children were treated with due respect and not just as little consumers.
Control, control. Everybody ready? Yes.
It's time to say goodbye, goodbye. It's sad, but time's the reason why we must bid farewell for a day or two. So till you come back again, think of us now and then. Think of us a little bit, 'cause we'll be thinking of you. Week has gone so very fast.
Adventure Island ceased production in 1972 and was repeated until colour television was introduced in Australia in 1975. Around this time, Godfrey Phillip made a 5-part children's series called Rainbow. This series won a Logie Award for outstanding contribution to children's television, but was never purchased by any of the national networks. Phillip has since left the industry.
So till we meet again, be good, do all you can that's right, and we'll be back to see you same time on Monday night. Good night.
We'll be thinking of